This 2019 footage of an enemy firefight in Afghanistan was captured by U.S. Army combat cameraman Ian Ives.
Hey Dan, when you need to put down this camera, you just let me know, okay?
Combat camera soldiers document combat situations that can be used for operational or historical purposes.
Move me. When you need to, move me.
Okay.
Later in his deployment, an improvised explosive device struck Ives, causing serious injuries. This is Ives Today.
My name is Ian Ives. I'm a former public affairs non-commissioned officer with the U.S. Army. Sometimes we're referred to as combat camera. I served for about 12 years until I had an injury in 2019, which caused me to be medically retired. You have a very interesting job as a public affairs sergeant. Half of the job is safeguarding information, but the other half that you fall into when you're working in a special operations environment is the documentation portion. A lot of things in special operations and even in regular combat missions, they need to be documented. That night, October 5th, we all kind of mutually expressed how we thought this was kind of had a weird feeling about this mission. I think the last thing I was saying was whether or not I thought that this white flag hanging up was an ISIS flag, and then I was flat on my back and I was wondering what the hell just happened to me.
You essentially stepped on an IED.
So there is some debate whether it was from me stepping on it. One of the procedures that the Taliban had liked to do at the time was they would do pressure plates a good ways away from the actual IED, because they understood that when we as special operations would travel with our Afghan partner force, and then we would be in the back. So their intentions are for the Afghan National Army to actually detonate the IED, and then the IED only hit the American soldiers. And the other one was potentially by cell phone. My first thought was, I'm in heaven. And then everything started to hurt. And I started hearing my buddies, screaming, asking if they're all right, and me attempting to answer them, and then thinking, oh, I'm not in heaven, I'm in hell. The very next thing I remember is one of my best friends who just happened to be right in front of me, and he was talking to me, and he kept saying, I'm so sorry, man, I'm so sorry. I've got to crike you, I'm so sorry. A crike is creating an airway in your throat, and the way you do that is you take a scalpel and you cut right underneath the Adam's apple, and then you insert a tube that helps facilitate breathing. I was messed up, but I understood what he meant when he said he was going to crike me, and I was not very happy about that. However, then shortly after he did crike me, he gave me some medicine, and a month later I woke up and I was in Washington, D.C. at Walter Reed. This is a majority of the combat kit that I wore on most of my missions in Afghanistan. This helmet also very much saved my life. In fact, if you look into it, you can see where some of the shrapnel came up into my helmet and gave me some superficial wounds on the top of my head. The plate carrier very much did its job and saved all my vital organs from being immediately damaged. As you can tell, there are a lot of damage ended up going right to the plate carrier, thank God. In combat situations, whenever people are wounded, they do not care how expensive your gear was or how nice it was. It all gets the same treatment and it gets cut off. As far as surgeries go, there are a lot of surgical interventions that had to happen due to the injuries on my face, airway, traumatic amputation of my arm, and then I'm missing about half my quadricep in my right leg. What was even more devastating was the blast, was the bacteria from the dirt in Afghanistan that I was infected with. That is almost what took me out, was the infection from the bacteria over there. Fun fact, if I had not gone to Walter Reed and gotten the exact doctor that I had gotten, there's a very strong chance I would not be alive, because the doctor that was assigned to me at Walter Reed just happened to be the go-to doctor on that specific infection I had gotten. Honestly, being in the hospital was the worst part of everything. Getting people ask if the trauma of actually being blown up is what gives you bad dreams, or you've got PTSD from. And it's not, because all the way leading up to that, I was just doing my job and I loved my job. Even the injury portion of it, it felt like it happened so quickly. And I mean, really it was just pain. And I mean, pain sucks, but as I learned in the hospital, there are worse things than pain, such as being immobile and not being able to move, or not being able to speak, which I wasn't able to do for about a month or so. Sometimes when I'm laying in bed and I get a little too comfortable, it brings me back to that headspace of when I was in the hospital, and it kind of freaks me out a bit.
When did you receive your prosthetic? Like, when did that, like, how did that all happen?
So that happened pretty quick. I mean, a lot of my surgical interventions were solely to help me get fitted with a prosthetic, or get me teeth, get me back up and running, right? Since I'm missing some pieces now. See, I got to Walter Reed in October. So by about March is when they're starting to look at fitting me for my first prosthetic. And it was very basic, body-powered prosthetic, but I mean, for someone who's just gone 5 months without an arm, like, oh, I was just ecstatic to have anything back. I have a couple different Purple Hearts that were awarded to me for various reasons. When I say that, I mean same award presented at different times. So there's the one that was publicized with 1st Special Forces Group on their social media, where I was awarded the Bronze Star and Purple Heart. However, this one right here is the one that was given to me immediately in Kandahar after my injury, which is why the case is beat up, because it's had a pretty big journey. And this is the one that I kind of, keep hidden away from other people. Funny story about that. One of the things I do vaguely remember is after getting on the Black Hawk was asking our flight medic whether or not I was gonna get a Purple Heart, and him just kind of looking at me going, yeah, dude, I think you're gonna get a Purple Heart. And then I was awarded a Bronze Star, but not because I got blown up. I was awarded a Bronze Star because I was a public affairs sergeant out running and keeping up with Green Berets and executing the mission. Not that I was a Green Beret or that I can do what they do, but I understand how to support them, I understand how to integrate with them, and that's what I tried to be a master at. The warrior part of me does not like that I have a Purple Heart, because that means the enemy got me. I didn't get the enemy. And it's a constant reminder that I had to cut my military career short of what I wanted it to be. So a little bit of hard feelings with it, but I try to take the good with the bad. And even though I have those feelings about the Purple Heart, I also, like I said, I do have pride in it. So they kind of level each other out. I've always kind of had an affinity for the Army. I grew up playing with superheroes, action figures, watching, Batman, Superman on TV. So I've always had this sense of wanting to go out and do the right thing. And then I think that passion was further boosted by the attacks on 9/11. So by the time I was in high school, the military service was very much on my mind. I contracted with the Army in 2010, and then the summer of 2011, after I graduated from high school, I went to basic training, AIT, and was a medical soldier. But I didn't want to be in the hospital. I didn't have any desire to be doing anything other than field craft and going out and doing Army stuff like you would imagine the Army does. So after about 2.5, almost 3 years of working at the hospital, I was talking to my retention NCO, how can I change my career path? And the career path presented to me was public affairs. I'm very much I kind of want to be a jack of all trades. I want to see all the things. So I signed myself up for public affairs school and got booted and suited and got out to the 25th Infantry Division for my first assignment as public affairs. And then after 3 years of being in what was actual Army, still wasn't really scratching the itch for what I was wanting to get out of the military. And they had an opening at the 1st Special Forces Group. And I threw my name into the hat, and I got chosen to take that assignment. And I spent the rest of my career as a public affairs sergeant at 1st Special Forces Group. When you looked at my entire gear setup from my injury, the IED blast, everything was jacked up, except for the Canon camera that I had with me. The lens was cracked, and that was it. My team was playing with it afterwards and taking pictures, and it was fully operational. But luckily, since it wasn't a blast, they were able to do the proper paperwork in order to release this camera and put it on a plaque and give it to me as a present. I guess they loved this quote of me continuing to say that this camera cost me an arm and an eye to get from the Army. From what I understood about the ideas, it was supposed to be meant for an armored vehicle, and I got to eat all that with my face. But that camera held strong, tougher than me. You have a very interesting job as a public affairs sergeant in a special operations, and specifically with the Special Forces unit. You can kind of break it up into two different sections. You have very much a very public domain where you're doing media relations, facilitating media to come check out your unit or answering questions to the media. But also the big portion of that half of the job is safeguarding information, ensuring that our special operations forces soldiers are not put in any harm's way regarding their identity or any information about operations they could be on. But the other half that you fall into when you're working in a special operations environment is the documentation portion. A lot of things in special operations and even in regular combat missions, they need to be documented, such as we have a procedure called SSE, or sensitive site exploitation. It's done after you clear a compound of all enemy combatants, and now you're going through and you're digging for anything. You're digging for information, you're trying to find weapons caches, and all that stuff has to be documented.
Why is it important to document all the parts of a mission?
So a lot of it's for historical purposes, but and this is just one scenario why documentation would be important. But if something goes extremely wrong or extremely good with that mission, if I've documented that mission well, now we can look back and actually have physical proof of what we did and how we did it. This innocuous piece of chain is actually something very near and dear to my heart. And it didn't start off that way. One of the missions that my team did in Afghanistan was we did a prison raid where we were freeing some of these political prisoners that the Taliban had imprisoned. Well, we go into this about 30-foot in diameter room, and there's about 20 guys in there all chained up. In the middle of me switching between helping take chains off and filming the entire mission, I had a buddy come up, he started stuffing chain in my cargo pocket, and I'm immediately like, dude, don't put the trash in my pocket, man. Like, come on. And he said something very profound to me, and he explained it once we got back off mission. So the Special Forces motto is De Oppresso Liber, which means to free the oppressed. I think this is probably about like the most symbolic thing you can bring back of you of, freeing the oppressed. This is a lock and chain that was literally on somebody that me and my team got to free. Within the year leading up until the end of 2021, when I decided to retire, a lot of things became evident that made me decide to get out. One of them was being advised that I shouldn't jump anymore. I was a airborne qualified public affairs sergeant. And then from there, me and my team that I was in Afghanistan with, we had planned a trip to Nepal to go do some training. Now, the issue we had was, and mind you, they were doing the right thing, but the Army was very concerned making sure, are you physically ready to go, do all this mountain training? Are you going to get hurt? Can you still hang? And the honest answer is I can't hang like I used to, and that's just a fact. I'm missing an arm. I'm missing one of the primary components to, providing combat support and doing my job in a way that is not going to make myself a liability or, potentially hurt somebody. So I sat down and my wife and I had this discussion. I brought up all the points about the Army. The only option I felt like I had was to leave them and go to the schoolhouse and teach. I couldn't bear to do that. I would much rather just have a break from the Army than go and continue to try to serve in a capacity that I didn't feel like I was doing it the way that I wanted to. So I talked to my wife and I told her You followed me around for the last 10 years. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? Ball's in your court. And she, also being public affairs trained, she found a job working for 5th Corps here at Fort Knox, Kentucky. We got everything lined up logistically. She moved out here. I made sure our house up in Washington got sold. And by the end of 2021, I was retired and out here in Kentucky. I saw an opportunity to come and work at U.S. Army Cadet Command as the media relations officer. I had the experience, I had the drive, and luckily I had the competencies to get selected for the job, and we're just moving full steam ahead from here.
Slow as smooth, smooth as fast. There we go. You're killing it. Keep going. Go. Keep going. Yeah! Good job, cadet.
I love the attitude. You didn't quit.
He lost his right arm. He lost his right arm. He lost
Damn, that sounds familiar.
During my time in the Army, I learned there are two things I absolutely love. One of them is combat. I love being a warrior. I love going out, kicking indoors, shooting guns, being with a small group of like-minded individuals who are trying to accomplish a mission. The other part I learned is I love to mentor people. I love to teach. I love to motivate. So even though it's not necessarily part of the job description, part of being in Cadet Command is being around these cadets who are about to lead the next generation of soldier. I want cadets and I want this next generation of soldier to feel like they have that support. I want them to see how leaders are, being empathetic and compassionate and mission-driven more than anything. And I want them to take that and I want them to run with that as they become officers in the United States Army.
You sacrificed a lot more than most for this country. What does that mean to you?
Someone had to do it. There's this term, I think that kind of coincides with, people who have physically lost parts of themselves. It's called sin eater. You go out and you're doing the things that other people aren't doing in order for them to have a better life, right? You're eating the sin that they aren't going to eat. I would go out and lose my arm 10 out of 10 times if it means that we get to keep our country the way it is, keep my brothers and sisters who are beside me fighting, keep them safe. If I can be a part of that cause to make sure that the rest of America, the rest of the country doesn't have to put themselves in that situation, I will.